Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Shali. Welcome to Ignite podcast. I'm so excited. I know I say I'm always excited about every episode, but this episode is going to be a wonderful episode. We have a wonderful guest in studio. We're going to be we'll be looking at the word ideal. I'll allow her to introduce herself. Sorry.
Hey, Dr. Shirley. My name is Pinky Ghelani. I call myself a conversation curator. I have a media background. And the reason I call myself a conversation curator is because I believe conversations are what touch emotion and thought, and that actually propels to change. So I create all sorts of conversations around women empowerment and around the girl child as well.
Okay. How I met Pinky, I worked in the media for a couple of years, and she's always like gives so much positive contribution and such, like groundbreaking interviews. And that's why I thought it would be interesting to have her as we discuss today's topic. Today's topic will be looking at when life is less than ideal. Now, the dictionary defines ideal as a conception of something in its perfection, a standard of perfection or excellence. Some refer to ideal as being imaginable, impractical, romantic, and utopian. But when we look at all our lives, you will realize that we all have ideals. And ideals are not necessarily a bad thing, because they motivate us towards goals. Goals around family, goals around maybe your career, just different aspirations that we may have. So there is an important role that ideals play. But we also must be very aware and note that ideals are influenced by culture. Uh, uh, Ideals are influenced by our traditions, they are influenced by our religion, they're influenced by, even currently right now, I think the main thing that influences a lot of the things that we do is social media, for example. Social media right now defines what a couple goals is, or what a perfect couple looks like, or what success looks like. Like, social media is affecting a lot of things. And a lot of times we don't realize that the more we watch a lot of things without sieving what we allow to sit in our spirits, we carry these things around.
Absolutely.
And so and as you live, if you live in this world long enough, you do realize that as an adult, life is often less
Ideal.
than ideal. Yeah. So, what are some of the ideals that you had before life burst?
The
Your
bubble.
Yeah.
So, I'll go way back to when I was 6 years old and I lost my dad. And I think that was the first time my bubble burst because it took away such an integral part of my family. And, then growing up and watching other families live quote unquote normal lives and having a single mom bring us up. That's my two brothers and myself. So that, ideal was taken away from me at a very young age. And I learned how to make the best of every situation. And if it was not the ideal family, it was my ideal family.
Okay.
If that makes sense to you.
Okay, I like how you phrase that. It's not necessarily the ideal, but it
It's
was
my ideal. Yeah.
your ideal family. I think for me, I also lost my parent, but I lost my parent when I was a bit older. I was 18, and the eldest daughter of our family. Like, I have many siblings, and so I found myself in this role of also almost like taking care of things. Nobody asked me to do this, but now when the ideal has burst, there are certain ways that it maybe even changes you. And ideals doesn't have to be even burst necessarily, like by death. We have ideals about career.
Everything. School.
You can school,
Yeah.
like your accomplishments. You're like, I'm only going to be successful if I only get
A law
A's.
degree.
Or
Yeah.
you get a law degree. And a lot of people find themselves like, I have my law degree, and then what next? They can be ideals about how you're supposed to look and behave when you're 30, how you're supposed to look and behave when you're 50. There are ideals about how mothers are supposed to carry carry themselves. There are standards that are set. And like me and you, okay, we had the ideals of the primary family setup, the mother, the father, and the child. Just looking back on your life, how do you feel that bubble being burst? How did that affect you?
I mean, of course, there is the trauma aspect, there's the dealing with it. There is, I remember being bullied in school and my dad being brought up as part of the reasons that I was bullied. But my two brothers and my mom sort of, I can't say they stepped in, but I made them father figures, if you will. So my mom was not only my mom, she was also my dad. My brothers were not only my brothers, they were also father figures. So it changed my life, like I said to you earlier. It was a part of how I managed to now navigate perspective, and how I also learned to embrace the term, man proposes, God disposes. We are not in control.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we have to learn as mankind. It's not on us. It's not within our hands. We're very arrogant to think that it is, that it does belong to, we are in control. But if COVID taught us anything, and I'll just go back to that recent episode, is that we are not in control. What we have to do as human beings is learn to adapt, to change. So you may have ideals, you may have things and ideas of how my life should look like, but it's not really that. It's how you show up and how you are able to, I always say, be like water, flow.
Ooh, and that's hard, eh?
It's very difficult.
Because we like to have control, eh?
Completely. And we want to, like I went to university to study law, and my brother died a week later. So I was back in Nairobi, very confused, thinking, oh my God, only bad things happen when I leave the country.
Oh, okay.
And, I then went into work at 17. I started working where all my friends, all my peers were enjoying university life and then getting their degrees. So I'm very different, therefore, and like I said, my ideals then began to change.
The narrative with which you the lens with which you looked at life. Huh? Are there ideals that, okay, because I know there are ideals which maybe don't come to pass, but there are some ideals which you have seen come to pass in your life. What are some of those ideals that maybe you have seen?
I mean, like I said before, they're always sort of, I feel like I was brought to them as opposed to me taking myself to them. I remember a big passion of mine was to be a household name. Okay. I didn't know how that was going to happen. And when Capsule FM, the radio station, was just starting, I dropped my eldest brother there for an audition. I didn't audition because I was like, I'm not going to be on radio. I want my face to be known. I don't want my voice to be known. But lo and behold, 5 years later, I'm a radio presenter, and that is how I'm making my name, a household name. So it's really like, it's that whole thing, going back to man proposes. So I wanted it to be this way, but God disposes. He took me down a different path.
And that's hard, because a lot of people, even when they talk about success, they talk about success in terms of control, us always having control of our lives. In fact, there's this term self-made success, which I think is ridiculous, but that's my own opinion, because I don't think anyone can be self-made. Those are just my own views. Somehow something influenced you, there's no self-made. But the idea that you don't have control over life is tough.
And like I said, that's the arrogance of man. We work from an ego standpoint consistently. which is why we've forgotten ourselves. We've forgotten who we are. We are from nature, so even simple things like walking barefoot in the earth, we have forgotten things like that. And, listening to your breath, which is all before all our phones and all the distractions came into our world. That's who we were. And we were more in touch with who we needed to be, and therefore allowed things to just happen. Now we want to make it happen. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having vision and aspirations and goals. But where I find it's a problem is because we work from an ego standpoint. It has to be this way. I have to, get my 3 degrees by the time I'm 28. I have to be married by 30. I have to have that ideal family by 32. Who says? Who says? The world has changed so much. What we need to do is learn to just allow.
And so it's like trying to find the balance between control and not having control. Because sometimes the ideal that we have, sometimes it's so unconscious. We are not even aware of it.
Yeah.
You could be going through your life, and maybe at some point you think, you know what, I don't have such a bad life, and then the ideal comes to you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. My life doesn't look like the ideal I have in my mind. And sometimes it's like ideal and unideal exist together, almost in the same space, which is, I think, one of the most interesting things about life. You can have these areas in your life which are like, okay, this is ideal. I put the work in, I strategized, I did this and I got this. And then you have this one area in your life which is completely not ideal. And trying to balance. Have you been in a situation like that where you have
Always.
like...
Always. I mean, listen to my story. 6 years old, lost my dad. 17, lost my brother. Again, just a blow to somebody who looked at her brothers as father figures. So lost another very big part of my life. At 30, not married, for an Indian girl. Oh my gosh. Not because I wasn't with someone. It's just because I had seen my brother get divorced, and I thought, oh my God, marriage is not for me. Again, not ideal, because, divorce in an Indian family, oh wow, that's not, it's taboo, so unideal. And my mom, again, being that single mom, having been talked about within the community, not ideal. Me not being included in the my brothers and I not being included in our father's family tree, not ideal.
They never included you in the family tree?
So my mom is a second wife, and there was a lot of drama around that. But like growing up with these things and hearing and feeling and learning to process all of this, not ideal moments, but finally getting married to my long-term boyfriend, Raj, and trying to conceive, and that not happening, not ideal.
Ooh. What was, like, I know you can't remember, it's like a couple of years since that happened. What was going through your mind when all this was happening?
I was conceiving and losing my pregnancies. So failure. I was told it's because you're old, it's because your eggs are old, it's because you do too much yoga. Which is why I always encourage people, know who you are. Because the world will always tell you who you should be, right? It's not because I was too old. It's not because I was doing too much yoga. In fact, yoga is actually really good for you. It's just because it wasn't happening, because my hormones were all over the place. But had I not gone down that journey, I would have never known. So again, not ideal that my hormones were all over the place. Just, there are things that life will throw at you that are unideal. But what I've learned from those situations is that you need to take those as lessons. What am I doing to attract the unideal? What am I doing to bring this into my life? What's the lesson? Friendships, relationships, body issues? What do I need to heal within me so that I can overcome this?
There was a time I saw one of your posts where you were talking about like one of your best friends who was part of your wedding
Yeah.
committee. You're no longer friends, eh?
She just stopped talking to me.
And that happens, like we think that we'll have friends that will carry forever. We don't realize that some friends are just for a particular season. It's not ideal. We imagine that if you're getting married or you go through a big moment in your life, that every friend that you carry with you, you will always carry along. Eh?
Yeah.
And having the grace to say, well, we might be friends in the future, but for now,
you see, when a friendship ends, it's like a breakup. And we don't honor that enough as women. It's like, oh, we're not talking anymore, or she's a big bitch, or whatever it is. But we don't give it the space that it needs to mourn the friendship. And it's not happened to me once. It's happened to me a few times where friends have fallen out. And I've never understood why. But again, internal healing. I always go back to that.
And even just as you're speaking, it just something came to my mind. One of the things that we have agreed is that life is often, the irony of things is that life is often not ideal. Everyone in their own way is living a life that is unideal. Yes, there are certain targets you might meet, but there are certain situations in your life that are not going to be ideal. And I think the important thing you said, even about the friendship coming to an end, is that when life is not ideal, we need to recognize it, and we need to acknowledge that it's not ideal. And I think the important thing you said right now is that we need to mourn.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't mourn. If you're a Christian, you think that it's not having faith. If you don't acknowledge and say, this has happened to me and it has hurt me and it has broken me, and can I just sit here for a while and just cry over it and just release it? We are just like, we need to keep going. We need to keep going somehow. We need to keep going. Yeah. What has been do you intentionally, when things happen, and I know it's not always possible to, we're not always self-aware because, like life is happening and many things are always happening. And sometimes we move into something new before mourning.
Yeah.
The ideal that has happened. How important do you think that mourning is?
It's essential. Yeah. Mourning, healing, and then moving on. So not mourning and staying in that dark space. It's okay to be in a dark space, but recognize it, allow it to be processed, and then move on from it. It's very difficult. And again, unideal. It's unideal to feel depressed. It's unideal to feel sad. It's unideal to mourn something that is still existing within your space, but no longer a part of your life. But you've got to do it so that you are able to become resilient. You are able to overcome. And you are able to learn who you are and how you show up. And how you deal then with the unideal the next time. Because it's not going to just end. The unideal doesn't stop when you've stopped, when you've done this process.
That's true. Like, an ideal is like part of the human experience. I don't think you can outrun it. I don't think you can.
Yeah. And it's not that we're saying that this is, it's dark and depressing and that's what life is and that's what the future holds for you. It's just understanding that bad things happen. Shit happens. And you've got to just be prepared. And again, not live in flight or fright. Not be like, oh my God, is this going to be bad? Oh my God, this is going to, do I need to? But being in every moment and enjoying it. I was thinking about this the other day. And you know how they say you need to be in gratitude. You need to be grateful for moments.
Yes.
But when you are grateful for a moment, it doesn't mean that that moment will never end. It will.
Ooh. Yeah, okay.
The only thing is, when you are grateful for that moment, you have taken it in. You have absorbed it. And that's what we should be doing in life.
And like, and when you're talking about it also, like, a lot of people also think that when you're in a situation that is not ideal, that they can, within that same existence, they can be something to be grateful.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a struggle, because we are like, I'll only be grateful when I cross over.
Yeah. When I
Into
lose
maybe
8 kilos.
into a better
when I
situation, which I think
get
is
that
more
promotion.
yes, like the ideal that I'm chasing. Once I get it, I'll be fine. And like you're
Yeah.
saying, we fail to recognize that the blessings, the things that we can be grateful for, it's good to embrace them and to enjoy them, but also to have it at the back of our minds that this moment will not be there always. And sometimes we're so busy chasing after it, or
Yeah.
we are so focused on being grateful to it, we don't realize that it's also not going to last.
Nothing
Forever.
lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. That is the reality of life. Good or bad, nothing lasts forever.
And how do you exist like? But I guess it makes you more grateful, eh?
I mean, you see, at the end of the day, Dr. Shirley,
Yeah.
I'm just but human. And humans are very funny. We're funny. We're a funny species, right? We're, like I said before, we work from an ego standpoint, but at the same time, we want to be grateful for everything. We want to be humble human beings, but you sometimes get caught up and lost in a moment that you forget. So it is great to be grateful for things, but then you do react. You do get angry. You do cry. You do get unhappy, and that's also okay.
Yeah, there's this book by, I think she's called Dr. Anita Phillips, and I think it's called, I don't know if it's called The Garden Within, and she talks about how, like, for a lot of us, we've been taught not to acknowledge emotions. We know that we can acknowledge happy emotions, but we really struggle with negative emotions, like the mourning, the grief, the accepting that, okay, life is not ideal right now, and it's okay.
Yeah.
This is just a season. It's not going to be forever. And even if it takes long, there's still things that I can find within the season to be grateful for. And one of the things that I think I struggle with when it comes to the ideal and unideal dynamics, because you can be going through a season where, for example, you're killing it when it comes to your career. You're killing it in times, maybe you're going to the gym, like you're on a diet, everything is going well, and you're killing it in terms of relationships. And then you have this one situation, maybe what do I say? What example can I use? Maybe your sister is not well, like, and this is a sister who you're very, very close with. And a lot of times we can be so focused on the unideal, we almost feel guilty. Like we feel like if it's unideal, everything is unideal. And life is not black and white. It's never black and white. So you are so focused on grieving or in the pain that and you should be, because it's someone you love. And like you're saying, these other things might not be there in the next season that you find yourself in. So you don't even take the time to celebrate these moments. In ideal and ideal exist together in the same season. No matter what season you're going through, there'll always be an ideal situation and an unideal situation. So how do you balance that?
That's a great question. So with what you're talking about, like right now, my mom is not well, and she's been in a wheelchair for 8 years and unable to speak for 8 years. She had a stroke 8 years ago, which is why, that happened. And she was my pillar. She was my go-to. She was, that person in my life. And to see this happen, to see also the decline of her health, it's heartbreaking. And I remember for 2 years, I just threw myself into healing her because I thought I could, right? And there had to be an intervention by my friend. There's one friend I had. She pulled me aside and she said to me, "You have kids and you have your mother." And they're like, she said to me, and these are words that just rang, they still till today. Your kids are on a different trajectory. Your mom is on a different trajectory. These guys need you. It's not that your mom doesn't need you, but they need you to be present. And that's when I realized, I said, oh gosh, I'm focusing way too much here.
Were you like researching, like
Everything
your whole
I
life was on
spoke to
healing your
every
mom?
doctor in the world, every witch doctor, every prayer I did, everything. I would take my mom, give her all sorts of dawas, and here were my kids growing up without me.
Oh.
So, I then sort of had to reflect and say, okay, what do I need to do? One, to be able to even let go of my mother's journey. It's not my journey. It's my journey to walk with her and go through my emotions. But it's her journey to go through what she's going through and heal if she needs to or not.
Because now the reality comes that what if she doesn't heal?
Yeah.
And those are tough questions.
Yes. And it's also accepting. That word acceptance is so difficult. It's accepting her situation and still being able to sit with her and give her love, irrespective of what I feel she needs to do for me.
Because you're like, if I asked you to describe your mom before the stroke, what was your mom like? Let's honor her. Who was your mother?
Pillar of strength, graceful, outspoken. Like I said, my go-to, my advisor, my babysitter, my everything. So that's what I'm saying. Ideal. She was the ideal person that I had in my life. Now suddenly unideal. I have young kids and I need help with them, and I need to make career decisions, and I need someone to speak to, and it's unideal because she's there, but she's not.
She can't communicate at all?
No, she can. It's very difficult. Yeah, it's difficult. And it's not the same, right? So then there is a comparison.
Ooh.
And then also, like being able to make her feel okay about it. Because we go out in public and there's a lot of stares and there's a lot of side eyes and there's a lot of avoidance.
Yeah, because that's how people deal with it.
Because it's uncomfortable. So also making it ideal for us to just make it like this is our lives. We can't lock her up in her house.
You can't,
So we must accept. And the other thing that I did when I had that conversation with my friend was surrender.
Ooh. Surrender is hard.
I surrendered it.
Because, we are so delusional about control. Like, we are like, I can control it. If I just think about it hard enough, if I just do this, I can control everything,
Again, it's that whole thing of we think we can do everything. But really, everybody has their own journey. Everybody has their purpose.
Did you, like you're saying, like you had to surrender, did you have to bury the ideal of what you expected your mother to be in this season of your life?
Absolutely. It was short of my 40th birthday when she had her stroke, like 2 months before. And I was like, what? I beg your pardon. What do you mean? I mean, this is my time, right? And I was supposed to have this big 40th birthday. And here I was not understanding that my mother and the person she was will never come back to me.
Oh, that's hard, eh?
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. And like having people say, but what are you saying? She's right there.
Yeah, because people are like, okay,
Like, but what do you mean? I mean, I lost my dad, and your mom is right there. And I'm like, no, it's not the same. It's not the same because I am mourning someone who's alive.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah.
So, like, she's there, but she's not there.
She's not there.
Which is so grey. It's not black.
Exactly.
It's not white.
You know what I used to compare it to? It's like those guys who went missing in the aircraft. Like, will they come back? Are they coming back? Will they be home? I remember opening her wardrobes and looking at her shoes, and I'm like, will you ever wear these shoes again? Because she doesn't walk.
Oh, she can't walk?
No.
Oh, she's how old now?
She's 75.
And in surrender, does it count, like you said, accepting? Do you think it's even better for her if you accept the now that she can give?
I mean,
Because
you
I'm
have
sure
to-
she is aware.
Of course. I mean,
yeah.
there are parts of her that are very aware.
Mhm.
There are bits of her that sometimes, I look at her and I'm like, wow, what is that? And then also like, okay, but where are you if you're not so present here? But again, it's going back to the fact that we take for granted what's within our body. I thought, it is my destiny as a woman to have babies.
Yeah.
In the same
The
regard.
ideal.
Yeah,
That's
ideal.
the ideal, yeah.
Her brain had a clot and it stopped some functions. And you're like, but how?
That's not ideal.
It's not ideal. And,
Yeah.
and why do we take even talking for granted or walking? Because it can be taken away. It happened in front of my face, her stroke.
She had it when you were there?
Yes. In a hospital, in a children's hospital. I was with my daughter. And they didn't even know what to do, which is such a disappointment.
Because they should have.
Yeah.
Oh, like that's, and it's been how many years now?
8.
8 years. Because you go through the pain of, okay, she'll come back to being ideal. The ideal mom that I've always known. 1 year goes down and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I need to. And like, how long were you chasing her, like healing her? How long did you do it?
2 years.
2 years. You're like, the ideal must return.
Yeah.
And a lot of times about ideal, we are like, we can never be happy. Our life will never be whole until we attain the ideal. And now, and coming to the realization, like for now, it's not ideal.
But it is, it's that whole thing that people like, anybody who says it is what it is, those are dangerous people. And my husband is one of those people. But I've also learned that it is what it is. It is.
Explain that a bit like.
So my mom is in a wheelchair, and she had a stroke 8 years ago, and it damaged her brain. It is that. That is what it is. And Pinky, get a hold of yourself, because that is the reality. And the likelihood, speak to neurosurgeons, speak to people who know the brain, who know stroke recovery. The likelihood of her coming out of that, what are the chances? Yes, there are miracles. And I prayed for that miracle all the time. I still pray for it. I'm like, will I get a call today? It should be okay.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand that, there is living in a cloud and a bubble, but there is reality as well. And what is the reality? The likelihood of her coming out of that and back from that, the chances are very slim. It's been 8 years.
Yeah.
But there's hope and there's prayer, and I'll never lose that.
So it's often life is like this. You have the ideal situation, and you if you're a person of faith, so you have to accept the ideal, recognize it for what it is, but at the same time find a way to still have faith. Because if you don't have faith, it can destroy you, and it can seep into other areas of your life. But at the same time, if you keep chasing this thing that is just seeming impossible, it can also destroy you. Both can destroy you. And so it's finding a way to live, and I think you put it so nicely in that you have accepted and you've surrendered, and you love your mom just the way that she is, and you give what you can to her. And I'm sure that just having her around, there's something that comes from knowing that she's still around. But at the same time, also coming to the recognition, like, I can still have faith even though I feel like my hands are tied to a certain extent. it is what is, as your husband
What it
says,
is.
it is what it is, but I can still have faith. And I know like finding the balance is sometimes hard.
So, you know what? The only thing we can control is ourselves, right? So I can control whether I'm going to wake up sad or hopeful in regards to my mom. I can wake up today and say, I'm going to work out or I'm not. And I know what the workout does for my mind and my body. So whether I want that benefit or not. It's that whole thing of choosing your hard. It's hard. Everything is hard.
I know. The adulting 101.
Right? So
Yeah.
so maybe it's even like choose your ideal. You can say that this would have been perfect. My dad alive, my brother alive, everyone happily married, lots of kids, lots of big family reunions. My mom is fine, cooking in the kitchen. My kids are enjoying their grandparents. Ideal. Ideal. It's not. It's not that. So what is ideal right now?
Ooh.
It's me showing up
Okay.
happy,
Okay.
full, so that I can give myself to the people who need me as best I can. That is how I'm choosing my ideal.
So, so the ideal is not necessarily something aspirational. Okay, it can be sometimes having the ideals are good because it's something to work towards. But sometimes what you have is what it is. What
It
your
is what
your
it
husband's
is.
wise
It is
words.
what
Yes,
it is.
yeah, it is
Yeah.
what it is. It's what you have is the ideal. Make it work for you. Oof,
It
that's
is,
hard.
I mean, because of everything that has happened to me that is unideal, it has taught me, it has built me, it has brought me to where I am today. It has allowed me to pursue what I need to pursue with faith and resilience. It has allowed me to say no to people, to put boundaries up. It's allowed me to look at life in a very different perspective, that it is, life goes by like this, and it can be taken away from you in an instant.
Yeah.
So why are we acting like we're living here? We're going to live forever.
No, yeah, we always think we're going to live forever. And we're going to be
Right.
young forever.
And we're going to
we
be
are
young forever, and we're going to do the same things we've done in our 20s forever. Oh, stop. Stop. Choose your ideal.
Is living if when life is not ideal, is it good for you? When you look back on and this is a tough question, This is not an easy question because when life is not ideal, it's hard. You cry, it is painful. It doesn't take away from like saying, okay, this is not ideal, and I'm going to find a way to live with it. But when you look back on your life, are you able to see certain things that you have learned or gained, even in the situations that were not ideal, as hard as they were?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When my dad died, I learned what family is and how they show up for you, which is why I teach my kids that your family is literally your mother and father and your brother and sister, if that, because it's not a guarantee brothers and sisters will get along.
No. A lot of family don't like each other.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it
then
can
also,
happen, yeah.
as a parent, how to understand how to navigate a sibling issue and allowing them to be their own people, but not intentionally hurting each other, if that's what it comes to. My brother's death taught me friendships don't last forever because his friends disappeared from our lives like that. It also taught me that tragedy can bring out the worst in people and the best in people.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah.
My miscarriages taught me that nothing is guaranteed. That just because you are a woman, it doesn't mean that your body is going to do what you need it to do. So to honor your body, to look after your body.
Ooh. And do you think that it makes you more appreciative of even just being a mom? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it also makes me aware of how I'm going to bring up my kids in the sense of their body awareness, what they need to eat and move how they need to move in order for them to be healthy throughout their lives. So understanding that, because when I balanced my hormones, it only came from nutrition, not medicine. So also not having them reach to a point where they're struggling, but teaching them from a young age that what you put into your body is going to affect you, whether it's your bones or your brain or your muscles or your hormones.
Yeah, and what can you say? It's like, I know you're still going through, because your mom is still not well.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think has been the greatest lesson you've learned from the
My
experience?
mother's stroke taught me boundaries, because up until then I used to people please. And when I realized that my biggest source of inspiration, motivation, everything, my person could be snatched away from me in an instant, like in such a rude manner. And I looked at her life and I looked at her health and I questioned, why would she have this? Why would it happen to her? It's because she never learned how to say no. She was always happy to get up and bend over backwards for anybody. No matter how tired it made her, no matter how many meals it made her miss, she was always ready to do anything for anybody. And that showed me that I needed to protect my boundaries. And when I say anybody, I also mean me, because she was ready to do anything for me, which was wrong of me to take that for granted. But it opened my eyes, because to a point I was like, oh gosh, did I just think she was, because I really thought she was superhuman.
Because even like being a parent, you have to have boundaries with your kids. Because I feel like sometimes parents will be like, I will do anything and everything, even when it is detrimental to your child, to yourself,
to your health. My mom was
that,
helping me like with nighttime feeds. And
it's sweet,
I didn't think this is a 60-something-year-old woman getting up 3 times a night, and here I am like fast asleep. Come on, Pinky. But do you see?
Yeah, I do see.
And it's so unfortunate that it takes such a painful
experience
to teach you lessons. But at the end of the day, what we have to remember is everybody is a teacher. The unideal
is a great
teacher.
Ooh. They are things you will never learn until your life is not ideal.
There you go.
If your life is supposedly ideal, or you think it is, you can walk around arrogantly and just have these sayings that make no sense because they work for you. But the moment your life is not ideal, you're like, shoot.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things. You learn empathy, you learn kindness, you learn boundaries, you learn to appreciate life. Like when life is not ideal, it's not a pleasant thing. Like it's still painful, even as you're going through and even learning from it. Doesn't take away from the pain. And like you're saying, it's important to recognize that. It's important to mourn that. But there is like the pain along with the gains.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Pain with gains.
And it's not
That's
fun.
That's why you're a doctor.
But I don't want pain with gains. I want easy. You want ideal, because that's...
Right now I'm learning how to do a handstand.
Oh, nice.
And my teacher tells me, you cannot do the good stuff without going through the hard stuff.
Yeah.
So if you want the good stuff, you have to embrace the hard stuff, no matter how hard it is. And you can endure.
No one likes endure.
Your mind will tell you can't, because your mind comes from an ego perspective. But you can endure, and you have to have faith in yourself to be able to endure.
Even the word endurance, you just see nails being poked. Like endurance is not a pleasant word for most people. Yeah, but it's a good thing to be able to endure. Yeah. There's so much to be gained from endurance. Yeah.
I mean, look at anybody who's able to perform something that we think is superhuman, like like Eliud Kipchoge. I mean, but that comes from endurance.
Yeah. You know, I know, like, even like there are so many like beautiful things that we've unearthed even from this discussion. And I think the thing that I really like about what you've said is the part where like your husband saying it is what it is.
Yeah.
An ideal makes you write a script of how you think your life should be. And it can either lead to you having a good life or having a very miserable life, because you keep thinking that your life is never reaching this ideal that you have for yourself. But I think the most important thing that you have said today, at least to me, is that rewrite it.
Who says you can't?
You don't have to keep chasing this thing that you think is and who even said that's the ideal? Who are these people who say that that is the ideal?
Exactly.
That we are all individual, we are all going through different things. And sometimes even the people who we think have ideal lives, and sometimes you can be comparing your life with someone's life and you can become bitter.
Yeah.
And you can carry offense and anger. You're like, why is it only me who has to go through this? If you take crossover into their life, you will find that they also have a situation that is not ideal, and you might not even be able to carry the weight of their situation that is not ideal. So I really like, don't compare, and I really love, even like when you're saying like, just this is what I have now, this is it. How can I make the best of it? How can I write the script in a way that I can exist in feeling the pain of maybe it not changing, but at the same time enjoying the moments and celebrating the moments that I can celebrate even within that same experience. Just rewriting the script. Yeah, I think that's very powerful.
Perception, perspective.
Yeah, like that's so powerful,
And even earlier when you were talking about social media, and again, it's all just perception. We will post what we feel is our best lives, but there's a lot behind there. And then there's artificial intelligence, right? So there's fake accounts that we need to have discernment over. We need to understand, is this really real? Because, I'm sure, I don't know if you've done it, where you put your photo in and AI, puts you into the 20s as a warrior princess, and you're like, hey, oh God, or gives you a six-pack. And that's what people end up that's what they'll start posting, or there's the deep fake. As we go into the future, there's a lot more discernment that we will need to have as people, as the human race, because not everything that we're being shown, not everything that is being put into our faces will be real, as it is now. But, now you can sort of say, no. But with AI, it'll be harder to tell. So that's why I say, and I'll go back to it, know yourself. Know who you are. And you'll only know yourself when you take unideal moments and own them.
Hey, that's so powerful. Because even the closing advice. Like, there are some people right now who are unhappy and are unable to enjoy their life as it is. Their now is filled with so much situation which they have been told is not ideal. They are so miserable. And sometimes you might find someone is miserable because their husband maybe is not the ideal they've seen on social media. Their husband is not, but it doesn't mean he's a bad person. But they can only see him through the lens of what they think is ideal, or they are looking at other people's children and they are not able to enjoy their own children because their own children are different from what they assume is ideal. Or they have a life which doesn't look like what social media, or even just life, the way this is success. Your life, we are told that this is what success looks like. And maybe you haven't attained that level of success. But if you are grateful and you looked at your life, you might realize that your life is not that bad. It's not ideal, but you may actually have a good life and you might be missing out on it. You might be depressed, you might be miserable because your life is not ideal. You're the ideal which you think. Like, what advice would you give to someone like that?
I would say that it's okay to feel that your life is unideal. It's okay. That's the first thing. Acceptance, right?
Yes, acceptance.
surrender it. Surrender your attachment to that. But also take ownership of it. What are you going to do about it? Because nobody's coming to save you.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Right?
That one is, no one is coming to save you.
Nobody's coming to say, you don't feel, okay, here's another husband. He doesn't, okay, here's another guy. Or your kids are, okay, let's just replace them with these kids. Take ownership. What are you doing? Because it's your life. How are you participating? What are you doing to make it better? Make yourself better first. Heal yourself. Fix yourself. Find where you feel you are hurting, where you feel that there is a gap, and that's why you're comparing yourself to somebody else. What is that? Where is that coming from?
Yes.
Where is that emptiness or that vacancy coming from? And fill it.
And the way you were saying, like, know yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of knowing yourself.
Know yourself.
Yeah.
And then, just... So your question was to...
Like, you've given, like, 4 really good points.
Yeah.
There's surrender, there's acceptance, there's owning, and then there's, like, searching yourself. Because it's so important to heal also yourself and find out why are you feeling, because if you know yourself and you then it means that you look at your life and you'll be able to appreciate it. And if you see other people, you can be happy for them because you also know that you are of value. You're not forgotten. Your life is not less than because it doesn't look like somebody else's life. So you're not going to be comparing, and you can enjoy your life, and you'll be discerning. I think if you do know yourself, you're able to open your eyes and discern.
Exactly. And the last thing I would be, what my advice would be is, how do you know yourself? Is you sit with yourself in silence. You sit, no matter how uncomfortable or how unideal that is. Sit with yourself. That's the only... How do you get to know with somebody? You take time. You sit with them. You do coffee dates or wine dates or whatever it is. So the same thing with you. Learn who you are and where your uncomfortable spaces are and what created them and what you can do to heal them. And therefore, and also learn who you are by going through difficult moments and seeing how best you show up.
Because you can talk smart.
Yeah.
You can think you're the best person at dealing with hard stuff until hard stuff come and you run away and cower.
Exactly. And then that's another thing. It's endurance, right? Don't run away from the hard stuff. Because it will catch up. You can avoid it today, tomorrow. In 5 years, it'll find you and smack you in the face.
Yeah. I think I feel like I've learned so much, and I know we are.
Can I call myself doctor now?
No, you can. You are a doctor. You are a doctor. Excuse me. You are a doctor. You've thrown such wonderful gems and even just thoughts. So I don't know. I would like to finish with there's a verse. I love this verse, and it just speaks about like what we are talking about right now. Okay. And then if you have something you want to say after, then you can say it. So this is one of my favorite verses. It's Philippians 4:6-8, and it says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything but prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." So let us look at our nows. Let us look at the good things that we do have. Let us focus on the things that we do have instead of focusing on the things that we think we do not have. What do you have in your hand? Like, what wonderful things has God given you? Even though your situation may not be ideal, like, what do you have? Appreciate that. Enjoy it, And like even we were saying, like but it doesn't mean you ignore the unideal situation, but it also means that you can decide how to show up even in an ideal situation. You can decide how to deal with it. You have the power. Like you're saying, like don't just sit there and just let life happen. Take action.
Don't be a leaf.
Yes, yeah. So
Don't
just
let the wind blow you.
yeah.
Be a tree with deep roots.
So in closing, what can you say? Do you have something you want to say?
Well, no, I just wanted to say thank you very much. This is a really interesting conversation. It is a conversation that sometimes is not always so comfortable, but in discomfort, we are able to discover who we are, and we're able to unpack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still don't like discomfort. I still don't like endurance. Those are another word you said. I'm like, I don't want these words, but they are good for you. Which is the irony and like the biggest thing you learn when you become an adult.
Exactly.
Hard is good for you.
And this too shall pass. Nothing is permanent.
Amen. Yeah. Thank you. I hope that you've all enjoyed this podcast, and it will help you to be a better version of yourself and ignite you towards something wonderful, something life-changing, like all the best. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.